So you and I got a little fired up this week.
We sure did.
And we've talked about it before, but we never have made it an entire topic for a full-length episode. And what we're talking about today is, just quite frankly, the hidden costs of the required 50-hour work week.
So performance over presence. In this...
Presence over performance.
Yeah. Presence over performance. Yeah.
Meaning what? What does that mean?
So, hey, you're my manager of this unit. You must work 50 hours a week, period. And if you don't, this is something we've developed over time, over 40 years. Maybe we're a little bit of a unicorn in it. I'm like, where did you pull this arbitrary 50 hours number from? Why not make it 42? Why not make it 56? I don't know where people pulled this out of their butt from. Mm-hmm. This 50-hour, you're salaried, you're working 50 hours. And
when did that well, first of all, I have two questions.
Sure.
One, when did we make the jump in corporate America from 40 to 50? When did that become a thing? And then two, why?
So I think in QSR, 50, and this is the thing that's always stumped me, is, like I said, 50. It's kind of all this arbitrary number of 50 has always been out there in QSR.
Yeah,
and for your salaried people, and when back in the day, I'm like, that was the thing. Where did this 50 come from? Why are franchisees putting this 50 number on salaried managers, or even above restaurant people?
Yeah.
And I'm like, our whole thought process behind it was, we want leaders. I don't want clock watchers. I don't want to monitor your time clock. I want you to lead and develop my store. And so we would always say, and I'm sure I've said this to you because I know I've said it to every single district manager, senior district manager, and pounded it into, our GMs.
Right.
Is that
you need to work as long as you need to work in order to get the job done.
To get the job done, and these are the KPIs that I'm going to look at to get the job done.
Yeah, well, you need to define what get the job done means.
If you don't define what the job done means, you're going to have people working 35 hours a week, 30 hours a week. I've had to fire people that were only putting in 35 hours a week and not getting the job done.
Right.
So you definitely need to define it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I want great KPIs, and I want you to develop people. How many hours that takes you to do is you decide that.
Right.
But if you're not hitting KPIs, we're going to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. If you're not developing people, we're going to have a conversation. Right? But, I think I'm sorry, this is,
well, the KPIs thing, we can go on and on and on and on and on about this, but like the achievement of the KPI is the achievement of the KPI. Don't make it more than what it needs to be. And so I think that's part of the reason why they have that 50-hour number on there, David, other than the fact that they're just trying to stretch somebody's salary, right? So they're trying to stretch somebody's salary so they don't have to pay any more hourly workers any more than they need to. That's number one. But then when we get into the back and forth about, well, I only put in 42 hours this week. I put in 40 hours the last week. I'm at less than 100 hours for the pay period, and we're hitting all of our KPIs. What's the problem? Well, then that's when they start to creep in and say things like, well, it could have been even better. The numbers could have been even better. But that's what I'm saying. Like if you define what the KPI is, then let the KPI be the KPI.
Exactly. this is, I want you to hit an X% labor cost. I want you to hit an X% food cost. I want you to hit an
labor's got to be 23, food's got to be 25.
Whatever we define it as.
Speed has got to be such and such. Your throughput number has got to be such and such. And then if they are achieving those, then just shut up.
Don't change the rules halfway through the game.
Right. If you're going to move the goalposts,
exactly,
you're going to lose people's trust immediately. And when you lose people's trust, well, then that's when you start to fracture as an organization.
You're rewarding time over performance. Then
you start to fracture, and so I want to make sure that word is known, because I don't want people to think, oh, well, are you saying that's a house of cards? No, it's a fracture.
No, it's
right. It's going to slowly start to erode.
Well, it's going to slowly start to erode too, but you're punishing great managers who are leading strong teams because they need fewer hours to do it.
Shit.
That's exactly what it is. So,
and you're robbing opportunities of your next generation of leaders.
Right. And
the minors, the single mom who wants all the hours she can get.
Right.
The manager in training that you have.
But then you're robbing great leaders, and you're rewarding weak leaders, weak managers, not leaders.
Not even rewarding. I would say that you're empowering.
Yeah, but
which is actually kind of worse, right? Because if you're saying that you have to be this shitty RGM needs to be there for 50 hours a week, even though they are not a great KPI getter.
Right. They're still not. Yeah. Oh, but look, they hit their 50 hours. Yeah, but
okay, where did that get you?
My job.
What did that get you?
Yeah, my job is not my job. As a franchisee, my district managers, my senior district managers, my director of operations job is not to monitor time clocks. Their job is to monitor KPIs, not time clocks.
Yeah.
So you come, and I've
it's the RGM's job to monitor time clocks to make sure that you're coming in at or under labor.
So
that's what we're like, dude. Like that's what we've been talking about, Dave. Like everybody operates 1 to 2 levels down.
Right.
This is one of the examples of just that.
So if I do this, if I pull this arbitrary number out, this is what happens. First of all, I trust the time clock more than I trust my leader in the store. That's a message I'm sending, right? Mm-hmm. I trust this time clock. I trust this arbitrary 50 hours more than I trust you.
Yeah.
That's a great message to send to your leaders, right?
Right.
But the other thing that it's doing is it's
taking away ownership.
It's taking away ownership, but it's also, I have put a cap, an arbitrary number, and I still, it's like some guy somewhere pulled this out of their butt, because I always said, where did this 50 come from? But anyway, I have put this cap on 50 hours. So we know in our industry, there are weeks where the manager might have to work 60 to get the job done.
Yep.
Especially during the holiday time, or we're short-staffed, or we're, I've got huge catering orders, right?
Yeah.
And so there are times where your restaurant GM may need to put in 60 hours. And so what you have done by saying you need to put in 50 hours a week is, I put in my 50, I'm done.
Oh, yeah, you've eliminated all above and beyond.
You've eliminated any incentive for them to take ownership, like you said.
Yep.
And then, but, oh my God, you didn't put in 50, you only put in 42 or 45 or 46 or whatever, then you're punishing them. And so, okay, I am sending the message that you work 50 hours a week, every week, that's it. The message I've actually sent was, if there's an issue with your store, the hell with it. You don't need to handle it because you put in your 50. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to. I don't
know if that's the message that's being sent.
Well,
but I will say that is the attitude of the RGM.
Oh, yeah.
Once they're off the clock, no, do not talk to me. I've put in my 50.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with the RGMs who say that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the RGMs who have that attitude. I don't.
You don't have a problem with. I have a problem with it I have a problem with it if there's not a cap. Like if there is a cap, I don't have a problem with it.
Right, but if there's no cap, then you're going to have you're going to have an organic above and beyond attitude, because that person is going to know that, hey, if the store doesn't need me, I'm going home. Right. And if they're hitting the KPIs, who cares? But then when the time comes where it's like, oh geez, okay, this is going to be a week where I might have to put in 60. These weeks are going to be few and far between. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Let me put on my big boy pants and get the job done here, because I know that next week or the week after that, I'm going to get back to my 35 to 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean,
when I took over 3981 on top of 3382, it was kind of back to where I was
doing 70 and 80 hours.
Yeah, and I knew what I was getting into, but I loved it. You know why? Because I had ownership,
right?
And it was a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. And we had to get that store back to pre-COVID numbers, and so I didn't even really think about how many hours I was on the clock, because I had ownership.
And you knew that if you got those stores straightened around as the MUM, and then all of a sudden Hunter worked 40 hours, Hunter worked 38 hours, Hunter worked 4. You knew I wasn't going to come at you and say you didn't put in your 50.
No. No, the only times that you talked to me was when I was working too much.
Right. Because sometimes that can also be a symptom of weak leadership.
Yeah.
Hiding behind hours.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's why I
oh yeah, that's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You'll hear that a lot. Yeah. Well, I've been putting in 87 hours. It's like, because you suck.
Yeah, you put in 87.
Right? If some is good, more is not better.
I mean, you put in 87 hours, but you haven't hit labor. Even though you put in 87 hours, you haven't hit food costs. Your inventory sucks. You're over ordering. Your guest comments, the KPIs.
Yeah. Suck. That's it right there. Like,
right.
It reminds me when we get into this debate about the 50 hours and all of these stupid things. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of something that my mentor, Derek Hansen, told me that his mentor, Charlie Francis, told him. Derek is a mentor of mine, for the listeners. He helped me become a sprinter. Derek was mentored by Charlie Francis. Charlie Francis coached Ben Johnson when Ben ran 9.79 at the 88 Olympics. I gave you all that exposition to bring you up to speed. No pun intended. Haha. Charlie Francis once told Derek about football players, because he did some consulting in the NFL before he passed away. He said, nobody cares how many times you can run a 5-second 40-yard dash. They don't care. They care about the one time you can run a 4.3, and then you get $1 million contract.
Right.
Nobody cares how many hours you put in. Nobody cares how many shitty 50-hour work weeks you put in. They care about the 1 week that you went all green on your KPIs. How do you do that again?
Yeah, I mean the same thing with your son and throwing the ball. It's like,
oh yeah, nobody cares how many nobody cares.
I want to see that 100 mile an hour. I want to see that 95 mile an hour.
Exactly. Nobody gives a shit how many. Like if you can throw 90 for 9 innings,
right.
Can you throw 97 once?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now you got somebody's attention.
Right.
Right? Because why? That's the KPI.
So, yep, exactly.
Right.
As a franchisee, the KPI should get your attention first.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I have sat down with every single person in leadership, and I've said it ad nauseum, and you know that because you can quote it. You need to work as many hours as you need to work to get the job done. I know that this job takes probably 45 hours a week to hit the KPIs. Roughly, right?
Yeah, I would say when I was working for you, probably less than 40. But again, if you count the time that I'm off the clock with the messaging on the group chats and things like that, it probably gets up north of 40, somewhere to 45.
And I know I have had to terminate people after multiple coaching. That you said that I need to work as many hours as I need to work to get the job done. Yeah, but you're only putting in 35 hours. You've been putting in 35 hours for the past, 6 weeks, and you haven't hit a KPI. So I gave you enough rope. You hung yourself.
Yeah.
Had to do that with the RGM that you took over for when you became an MUM.
Yeah.
Just wasn't putting it in the hours.
Yeah.
I am not going to, but I wasn't monitoring her time clock. I was monitoring her KPIs.
Yeah.
So then the KPIs told me there's a problem. And then I investigate the problem. I'm not monitoring time clocks. I'm monitoring KPIs.
Yeah.
KPIs told me there was a problem. That led me to look at the time clocks.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at the time clocks first.
Mm-hmm. And
I think that's a big mistake most franchisees make, is that
they look at the time clock for the KPI.
Exactly.
But then on the other side of the coin, if they look at the KPIs, then the first thing they go to is the time clock. I'm not sure that's the right approach either. Because again, if you maybe you just have the wrong person. Maybe they just suck.
There's coaching involved.
Yeah.
I mean, there's first week, second week, whatever. There's coaching.
Yeah.
And hey, let's walk through how to read your data, and let's walk through that line by line by line by line. And I've done that, of how to monitor this, where you can make adjustments in food costs. Let's look at labor.
Yeah, but let's not get too solution oriented right now. Let's get back to the hidden costs. So we talked about where you're killing above and beyond. You're killing ownership. I think you're also killing trust. You know why? Because the ARLs and the executives and the people not in operations do not punch a clock. So you're thinking, wait a minute, time the fuck out. You mean that I gotta punch a clock for 50 hours, but none of you motherfuckers need to punch a clock? Okay, wait, what? But you're all just what? You're all just on a trust system that you're all putting in your 50 hours as well? Get the fuck out of here.
No, it's
that's horseshit. Because if we're gonna be fair and consistent, right? Then it needs to be fair and consistent.
I think one of the biggest impacts that does about time clocks and setting this arbitrary number, and I can't stress that enough. I have no idea where this 50 came from. It's pretty arbitrary to me. I've heard it for 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. By doing that, you are hurting culture. And if you have any questions about my feelings about culture, that's one thing I can never delegate. Mm-hmm. So, and the minute you start hurting culture, you're going to go out of business.
Trust, ownership, above and beyond, development and empowerment.
That's all culture.
And well, yeah, but I mean, because that's culture can be ambiguous and vague. So I'm trying to give it more specificity around that. What else? What else is the? I mean, the obvious one, burnout.
Well, I wrote burnout down on here, and if you want as a franchisee,
either literal or metaphorical, they're either just going to literally quit because they can't take it anymore, or they're going to silently resign.
Yeah, they're going to quietly quit. But I ran numbers. I ran numbers on how much does it cost, to train, managers. If a manager quietly quits, or if a manager walks.
Are you talking about a shift lead or an RGM?
I'm talking about an RGM.
Oh yeah, I mean that's $50K easy.
Right.
To replace that.
That's
easy.
Yeah, but then there's all the hidden costs in your POL that I think franchisees don't look at. They don't look at the RGM. They built a team of people, especially your high performing RGM. They built a team of people. And if they've hit all their KPIs, they've got great customer comments. All of that stuff is going to be impacted. So your KPIs are going to go down. Customer comments are going to go down. Everything's going to be impacted above and beyond the cost of recruiting and retraining.
Yeah, because you're going to start to...
So recruiting, retraining, you can put the 50 on.
You're going to start to use another physical preparation term, is you're going to start to detrain, delegation, because, again, when it comes time to make cuts, or if there's a slow period happening, like in some brands right now, or like COVID, then all of those hours, along with the tasks and authorities that the RGM has delegated to the people that he or she is trying to empower, gets rolled right back up to him.
So whenever
Did you hear what I just said?
I heard exactly what you said, and I'm gonna piggyback on it. I would tell RGMs and I would tell district managers that whenever I would put a new manager into a store, or whenever you, as the district manager, put a new manager into a store, within 6 months, that store will have a whole new crew. Some outliers, but in general,
if that person has full autonomy to run the store.
right? No. So if I take a high performing RGM,
Yeah.
and I'm constantly clock monitoring, and they've lost trust with me. I've ruined culture, the whole 9 yards, and that high performing RGM walks, and they leave. Within 6, and I put it, then the DM or me or whoever puts in a new RGM, whether they promote from the store level or they promote from outside or they hire from outside. Within 6 months, all of the employees who worked under that high-performing RGM, in general, now there's outliers, but on average, within 6 months, that store will have a whole new crew.
After the high-performing RGM has walked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, that's another hidden cost.
Yeah.
That's another hidden cost that franchisees don't take into account. So you've got you said $50,000.
And that's low.
That's low. But now,
high performing, maybe 1 to 2, maybe 1.5 to 2 times that person's salary,
so
which
now,
would be 100 to 150K to replace that person.
But now add in all the hidden costs that you didn't account for. Because that RGM didn't work this hypothetical 50 hours.
There goes labor. There goes speed of service. There goes your variance.
Comments.
There goes your culture.
Variance.
Yeah.
There goes your labor cost. Yeah, food costs, waste. All of it goes.
Yeah.
Throughput goes.
Yeah.
And throughput is profit.
Mm-hmm.
And it all goes.
Mm-hmm.
So you did not factor.
We're back now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you lost us, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know where you lost us either, but we should be back.
We are passionate about leadership.
Let's go back. Let's go back.
Sure.
Let's go back a few minutes because I have no idea where the listeners lost us. We were talking about offering up essentially a paradigm shift every single week when we are on here, and what I said was, somebody messaged me on my email saying that after I did a solo episode, because I think you were out of town one week, and I talked about micromanagement feeling everything feeling like an emergency, and for you and I, we just kind of shrugged our shoulders and like, well, that's
Tuesday.
That's Tuesday for in a place and space where that sort of thing runs rampant all the damn time, and I think that's why you and I feel so morally obligated to do what we do every weekend on this show, because what we're doing is we really are offering a better way, literally a better way by definition, because most people in this industry quite literally don't know any better.
So they
just carry on with I got to put in my 50. I mean, my area leader is going to obviously be in our group chats, and there's going to be leadership confusion as far as who my people go to for a question about the fucking store and all of these things. I say all that to say what you and I are doing is important. And
so Hunter, we come at it from two different perspectives. So, Hunter is very much in-store, boots on the ground kind of guy. And, my in-store boots on the ground was 30-some years ago. So I'm coming at from a franchisee kind of thing, and I just get so dumbfounded at some of my fellow franchisees that I've talked to, that I've associated with, that I've worked with, that they are more they're so controlling.
Yeah.
And what was it we said? Remember
you said let go so you can grow.
Yeah, let go so you can grow.
Get the fuck out of the way. Are you a business owner or are you self-employed?
Yeah.
What are you?
Let go so you can grow. And I think that as most franchisees are entrepreneurs. We got in it to make money. That's great. That's that's the reason anyone owns a business. But
what you just said, that's the reason anyone owns a business.
Right.
Are you owning a business or are you an owner-operator?
Yeah.
Which is it, Pud?
Well, maybe your first store, you're kind of an owner-operator a little bit, but if you want to grow, let go. If you want...
Otherwise, you're losing money. You hired somebody to do a job. Right. Why are you doing it right alongside them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like... I get so dumbfounded, pissed off when I see great people that I view or that I would want in my organization, that I think have the potential. They're trainable, they're coachable, they're inspired, they're the Hives thing. And I just see them getting burned out by idiot franchisees who are managing to the clock instead of operating to KPIs, that are so concerned and so they're strangling their business. They are so controlling that they have the hands around the neck of their business, and they're strangling the air and the lifeblood out of their business. And I look at these businesses and I think, I know where this business was 3 years ago. I know where it was 5 years ago. And you strangled the hell out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to say something. I forget what it was. Going back to it had something to do with the clock. Keep going about the clock. Talk about the clock.
Talk about the clock.
Talk about the clock.
So.
Here's what it was. Because what you start to do if somebody is hitting the KPIs and they're still beholden to 100 hours of pay period, 50 hours a week, they're going to start to think that, or question, what is good enough? What is good enough? Yeah. So so then what you're doing is you're starting to put in a word, you're going to start making them feel defeated. So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that if I set up my store for success for the rest of the night, the rest of the shift, whatever it is, I get somebody who sends me a message and says, "Hey, Hunter, I know that such and such is happening. I really need the hours right now. I'm pregnant. We got some other things going down. I know I want to work towards this promotion. I want to be great for you." You're going to tell me that I can't tell that person, "Well, come on. Let's go. Clock in. Do your thing." Because I quote unquote need the hours more than they do. Wait a minute. What? Because if I empower that person, I let them come in, and then I go home, do you think that they're going to do a shitty job for me? That's number one. Number two, if you have a culture of excellence through empowerment, then you're never going to have to worry about the metrics. That's going to be green or whatever your indication is that you've achieved them, color or some other way. Yeah. But so you're going to say that the RGM has to be there. Presence over performance is what you like to say. Because why? Well, because the ARLs and the franchisees are going to say, like we said in the beginning of this episode, that they're going to say a little bit more granularly than what I say, which is just you're stretching the salary. Well, we shouldn't have to pay somebody else. Those hours should just go to you because of your salary.
Yeah, but then you got the highest paid, sandwich maker in the industry. If you're constantly expecting you're
stepping over dollar bills to pick up pennies.
Exactly.
You're robbing that miner, that single mom, that next great shift leads development.
So I've gotten these phone calls, and I'll tell you my response. So I've got
which affects retention.
Exactly, but I've gotten a phone call from a district manager, from a restaurant manager. I've gotten this phone call that about, I'm salaried and I gotta, but Joe, this person really needs the hours and yada yada yada. And they might end up with overtime. Let's say that. Let's add that in there too. My go-to response is not, have you put in your 50 hours or whatever. Or
well, what are you going to do about your hours?
No, yeah. That's the dumbest question. I hate when, and I've seen this happen where a DM walks into a store. I happen to be in the store. The DM walks into the store, turns to the restaurant manager and says, how come you only put in 46 hours last week? Hey, come talk to me in the diner. But anyway, one of the things that I want leaders to do, that all franchisees should want their leadership, their restaurant managers, their district is to take ownership. So, my question then to.
But they confuse. We need to define what ownership means because
ownership
when they hear ownership,
not micromanaging.
When they hear ownership, what they're going to hear is, well, yeah, absolutely. We want ownership.
No.
We want our RGMs to be the master of every single thing in that store, whether it's counts, scheduling, ordering, speed of service, guest compliment, manager compliment, and so on and so fucking forth. That's the attitude of what, and that's why we need to define what ownership is. Because to me, ownership is, can the fucking store run perfectly without you?
Right. Yeah. So my response when I got these phone calls about the example that you just gave, right, is not how many hours have you put in. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, then you're using busyness as a proxy for productivity, presence over performance.
You own the store. Can your store afford it? I'm not going to make that decision. Right? I'm not going to make the decision about, you are the manager, you are the person I'm paying a buku ton of bucks to run that store.
So, I mean,
why would I make that decision about you going home early so this person can get some extra hours? You own the store. Mm-hmm. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
You make the decision. These are the things that I hold you accountable to.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, KPIs. I hold you accountable. We talked a lot about accountability.
Yeah.
This is where I hold you accountable. I don't hold you accountable to your individual hours. I don't want to know when you go to the bathroom.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you called me asking me, what do you think I should do in this situation? My response is, can you afford it?
So define what that for the listeners. When you say can you afford it? Because when I hear that, what I mean is, if you go home, or if you're not gonna hit 50 hours this week, next week, or indefinitely, is your labor still going to be green on the P&L?
That's exactly what I mean.
And if the answer is yes, then carry the fuck on.
That is exactly what I mean.
But the problem is that greed.
Yeah.
Greed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your labor was green, but I mean, if we weren't paying other people hourly and we gave all those hours to you, it would have been even better.
KPIs.
Fuck off. Then you know what? Then give me a share of the profits. You want me to participate?
So we've got to remember that we talked about this before. Participation. My level of commitment and participation is obviously going to be higher because my share of the piece of pie is bigger. Anyway, we talked about this with Mike DeJong.
Yeah.
A little bit. We talked about, I lost my train of thought. We talked about
We were talking about profit sharing.
KPIs.
Yep.
So we talked with Mike DeJong about KPIs, and you said, the greed and if you would stay, your KPI would be better in that. KPIs are not set in stone. KPIs, we talked about this with Mike DeJong, is that as a franchisee with your team is your RGM, your DMs, your senior DMs, your DOs. KPIs need to be evaluated at least yearly. So today, when I hired you, Mr. RGM, this is your KPIs. I think some franchisees, next year when we sit down and review the KPIs, they may change.
How do you feel about them changing more than once a year?
Once a year.
How do you feel about them changing more than once a year?
You're changing the rules in the middle of the game. I know there are some people that look at quarters, and quarters to me are a snapshot. They're a snapshot of how we're doing. Sometimes we change KPIs halfway through the year for extreme, drastic kind of things, but I may change KPIs with a new manager comes on, so that may happen halfway through the year. But I generally don't change them by the quarter. I like annual reviews. One, the manager runs the store. Yeah,
I didn't mean to derail you from the 50-hour work week.
But the manager runs the store. So but go to your point where then I come back to you and say, well, if you hit all your KPIs are green, and you only put in 42 hours or 38 or whatever, but we would have been so much better if you had put in your full 50.
Well, then the answer is just very simply, then money talks and bullshit walks.
No, but the answer then is, right now, that leader is doing exactly what I asked them to do.
Yeah. You're creating a robot.
Their accountability, they are, I said...
You're either going to have a robot or somebody who's going to resign.
Right. So one of the things I
don't know if there's anything in between.
When we talked about culture 2 weeks ago, we said, what are one of the KPIs of a bad culture? One of the KPIs of a bad culture is burnout.
Yeah.
So...
This is...
Yeah.
A precondition.
Right. So if I am...
It's a canary in a coal mine,
right,
is what it is.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Burnout is exactly it.
Well, no, the 50-hour work week is a canary in a coal mine for burnout.
Yeah. But, and it also, the biggest thing that I go back on is that there are times where I know managers have to work 60 hours. I know that. It's the nature of the beast.
Right, but the person who has the 50-hour requirement, if they see a week, or if they're in the middle of a week where it's like, oh man, I really probably should, they're not gonna.
They're not. They're gonna leave at 50.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep.
And so then you've got your store is gonna suffer.
Yep. Yep.
So if you talk about this too, what do you talk about? Something in the bank.
Something in the bank.
Like. Kindness, put it in the bank kind of thing.
Oh, you're making relationship deposits.
Relationship deposits.
Yeah.
You can correlate that a little bit to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I say, you got to have the guardrails, because if you say you need to work as many hours as you need to work to get the job done, and you don't define what the job is, then you're going to end up firing people because they're only going to work 30 hours a week. And not get the job done, but
because that is the listener's question. I guarantee it. Well, then how many hours? If 50 hours isn't the number, then what is the hour? What is the hour? It isn't. You look at the numbers.
So
look at the results. Which is why it's
anyway,
important to define what get the job done is.
Define exactly what.
And then whatever it is, then carry on.
Right. So what I've said to new managers, is. You need to work as many hours as you need to work to get the job done. Here is the job. and it's the KPIs, it's all the management functions, and if they delegate those functions, great, more power to them. On average, new managers that are still finding their feet, it generally is about 45 hours. But I don't want to put a number on it.
Mm-hmm.
I want I'm managing I'm looking at KPIs first before I'm looking at time clocks.
Yeah, listeners will probably want a number, and I think it would be between 35 to 40 in the store, and then you're going to be excited, and you're going to have a high level of engagement outside the store in the group chat. So that's probably going to get you up past 40, maybe into the 45 range there. Do I think that you're going to be in the store for 45 hours? Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
But if you are. If you're, so let's say what ends up happening, this whole 50 thing. Hey, you know what? It looks like for me to get the job done, this is the definition of job, I'm taking ownership of the store. The leadership above me trusts me. They've given me multi-million dollars of theirs to manage. You know what? Next week, I'm going to have to put in 60 hours, it looks like.
Yep.
And they're not going to balk about that.
No.
And maybe the next 3 weeks I might have to put in 60 hours. But you know what? Once I get through this hump, or, maybe a couple of good people left and I've got new people that I've got to train and develop and coach and pour into, I'm going to get back to that. I used to upset some district managers when they'd come to me with, oh, woe is me. I'm like, this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the nature of QSR. Sometimes you may have to put in 60 or 65 hours a week. God forbid. You want to know how many hours I put in? But that will pass because you are a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it will pass, and you will get back to where you were only working 40, 35, 38, 42, whatever. You will get back to that. This is a hump you got to get over. Because you're a good leader.
One thing you said to me off air last week is I haven't pontificated as much. Here's a pontification for you.
All right.
I think this is a theory as far as where the 50-hour work week came from. I think it came from big corporations. I think it came from large MUOs, multi-unit owners, who effectively knew that they didn't care about high-performing RGMs. They just wanted to hit the number, and they don't give a fuck how many bodies they have to go through in order to get that number. And then I think over time, that's the dichotomy of the axiom success leaves clues. I think smaller, up-and-coming single unit and or MUOs started to adopt that philosophy. Oh, well, this large franchisee is doing it. This concept is doing it. Why wouldn't I do it? You know what? 50 hours a week.
Yeah. And that's
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it just
makes sense to me.
It became this gold standard number that,
because who really gives a fuck about your next district manager, senior district manager, director of operations that you might have at store 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? They don't give a fuck.
Well, you should.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. Well, yeah, exactly.
Because you should, and I'm going to.
They're just going to want to just plow through as many bodies as it takes in order to get to that number.
But you should get,
because they want robots.
But you should because if you don't, we've outlined all the hidden costs.
But they don't share the same belief that you and I do, right, David, that the RGM, the manager at the store, I don't know why I said that like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The manager in the store is the most important person in the organization.
Yeah.
They think that they're the most important person in the organization because they live in the clouds and they're on their White Castle and all of those things, and they're gonna make all of their decisions from a top down hierarchy rather than a bottom up one.
Right.
When it's because it's just such a fucking stupid belief, because the change you want to happen occurs at the store level.
Right.
The most important person in the organization, whether you got one store or 300, is the restaurant general manager.
Right. And everything above that needs to support him or her. Everything around your organization, if you start, when you're growing and you're going to develop your organization and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add a DM, I'm going to add a senior district manager. You start developing that. You're developing people that their job is to support the RGM. It's not necessary. I mean, I don't want to say it's not their job to be the report to the, that the RGM doesn't report to them, but their main function is to support the RGM. One of the ways that you support an RGM is holding them accountable to KPIs, but the most important person in the store is the RGM.
No, I take it on the next level.
Well, the most important person in the whole organization.
Yeah.
You know that. I believe that. But
so let them go get the numbers for you rather than being a slave to a clock.
Yeah, and you can chat GPT this if you want, or Google it. Look, just type in how many QSR businesses are no longer in business. How many QSR brands don't exist anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And I would propose that a lot of those are because of poor leadership.
Oh yeah, that's the problem for everything.
It's not, and so. And there are, we can Google it now and look at some current brands and say, hey, how long are these brands going to be around?
Mm-hmm.
And it's we talk about, well, I've heard marketing people say this a lot. Well, it's the whims of the consumer and the product and all of this and that. No, it all boils down.
Let's see if I can chat GPT this right now.
It all boils down to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some brands that have been around forever and a day that have great leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are brands currently right now that probably will have a very long lifeline because of great leadership. And I think there are brands right now that, my grandkids, when they're adults, they won't be in existence anymore.
Let's see here. How
many
QSR brands are no longer in existence?
Well, I can think of 10 at the, maybe 5 at the top of my head, but
let's just say since 1990.
Okay.
Since that's the year your boy was born.
Jeez, you're a baby.
Let's see what we got. If you don't, we talked about level 5 leadership, just as an aside. If you're not using ChatGPT for $20 a month and you're an RGM in this industry, you're not leaning into technology as much as you should be.
Yeah, technology is a big, I think of technology today versus technology when we first opened. And it's like, why didn't I have some of this back when we first opened? But don't make that technology your defining. Don't make technology, your fallback. I was in a store the other day, and all of their kiosks were down. And the girl at the POS had no idea how to take orders.
So roughly 120 to 200 QSR brands that had meaningful multi-unit restaurant operations in North America have disappeared, been fully converted, or effectively ceased operations since 1990.
150?
120 to 200.
Yeah.
So some examples: Rack's Roast Beef, Druthers, Kenny Rogers Roasters,
yeah,
Mighty Casey's,
yep,
Burger Chef.
Burger Chef.
Those are burger joints.
Yeah, I loved Burger Chef.
Chicken is Mrs. Winners, Pioneer Chicken, and Cluck You.
That's
amazing.
I've heard of Cluck You.
Mexican Santingo, Pancho's Mexican Buffet,
Yep.
Chi-Chi's. I remember Chi-Chi's.
Deep fried ice cream.
Sandwiches, Miami Subs, Blimpie.
Blimpies, yeah.
Schlotsky's.
Schlotsky's Deli, yeah.
As far as some pizza concepts, Pizza Haven, excuse me. Noble Romans. And then seafood is the last example they give. Arthur Treachers.
Yeah.
And Skippers.
Skippers, I don't know if they were in our market or not,
The bigger story, it says, what's perhaps more interesting is how much turnover there has been among the biggest brands. According to QSR Magazine, the top 50 QSR brands in 1998, only 27 were still on the QSR 50 by 2021. That's nearly half of the industry's leaders being replaced over just 2 decades.
Yep.
For someone like you who studies QSR leadership, ChatGPT says, this is an important takeaway. Restaurants don't usually fail because people stop eating. They fail because they can't adapt to changing consumer preferences, labor mistakes, unit economics, or franchise execution. Are we talking about labor today?
So we're talking about labor, but of those 4 things that you just said, the one that I hone in on is franchise execution. That's my, that's who I think I'm speaking to a lot as franchisees, and that's who I've spoken to. That's who I hear. That's meetings I've been in were mainly franchisees. And so hopefully.
And hope isn't a strategy.
No, hope is not a strategy, but listen, you and I were talking offline the other day about humility. My definition of humility is not that weak little cowering guy in the corner. That's not humble. Humble is knowing that there's a lot more for you to learn.
Yeah.
So I say with all humility, I have a lot to learn, but I also say I've learned a lot.
And that takes a lot of humility to sometimes admit the confidence we have in ourselves.
Right.
And what we have learned.
Right. And I hope that some of the stuff that we're laying down hits some of these people. Hits some franchisees or hits some people that are maybe RGMs or above restaurant leaders that I've had successes, I've had failures, I've learned from my failures, but I hope that some of this helps them become better leaders, because the goal, I think, of all of you and I is developing leaders.
Yeah, and as you said, I'm gonna say it one more time. Hope is not a strategy, and so if you want to take action, if you want to fast track this process to start getting your people reinvigorated and as far away from burnout as you possibly can, and start actually adopting something like excellence through empowerment, then download the Fast Food Fast Track Playbook. That link is in the show notes. You're going to get a free throughput calculator that I had ChatGPT use. One of the case studies I was working with out in Kansas, they love it. You're going to get a whole full-blown 28-day case study. You're going to get that thing in a video walkthrough with yours truly as well. And then if you want to the next step, which you probably should, then get in touch with David and I, because you got a lot of experience, both, as David said, boots on the ground, and somebody who's been in the weeds and also above the store as a franchisee and a director of operations for an entire state in one of the largest QSR brand known to man. So check that out. Check out the way out of self-sabotage into self-mastery. That link is also in the show notes. You can also find it at huntercharneski.com as well as Amazon. You got anything else?
One takeaway for me is don't confuse hours with leadership.
presence over performance.
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys next time.